what is it? I say Samuelle. They go, oh,
Oh
that's
man.
different. And then I go, yeah, she didn't want people to pronounce it because some people would just jack your name up and call you Samuel or Samuel.
Oh
So,
man.
so she
Man,
would
they
say,
would
no, I'm
do
gonna
it,
spell it.
man.
So she said, I'm gonna
Yeah.
spell it. Well, hey, looking at you through this thing over here. But for a minute there, I was like, so I thought Heavy D died. I was waiting on you to go to the dilly 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 dilly.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, man. That's the first time you ever called. That's the first time somebody ever called me there for
Yeah,
real,
I'm
man.
looking at you right here, and I'm going like, cause I met him in person years ago, so I'm thinking like, well, that boy look like Heavy D. I thought he's about to go dilly dilly dilly.
Yeah. I tell you, man, like when I was, let me see, I weighed 247. When I
uh-huh.
was like 155, people
Mm-hmm.
called me like different entertainers. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
what the hell, man? And stuff. It's crazy, man. Yeah, because I know some people call me Rashid. I'm like, man, my mom would have heard that. I'd be like, boy,
Yeah, I know. What you know? What
I
I
can't
just
even.
saw I saw the beginning, and I just assumed that's what I said. I'm talking about him, and here I go. I see
Yeah.
Rashad clear as day right there. I see
It's
it
all
clear as
good.
day right there. I didn't mix Rashad and Ali together and called you Rashid. now
Good
you
stuff.
now now you were you in Kentucky?
Yeah, Louisville, Kentucky. Yep. Yeah, here in the
Oh,
Midwest.
Louisville. Okay, you're in Louisville. Okay.
Yeah, stuff. Yeah, big shout out to Miss V. I see her in the comments and stuff.
Oh, okay. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Well,
man. Let's get right to it. Man, what's going down, everybody? It's your boy Minnesota Effect Rashad Lee from the RB Talk Show. You know, you see my brother right here, we was clowning and everything and stuff, man. And I'm gonna tell you something, man. It's an honor to have you on here, man, because you are definitely a legend. You are definitely very important to the culture of what you done from your early days with Club Nouveau, to the beginning of it, your solo career and stuff. We think about your career in retrospect, but think about, like your appearances and stuff, like you performed on Soul Train, American Bandstand was like top of the pops and, have your videos on BT, NTV, VH1 and everything, man. My brother, you definitely deserve your flowers and stuff. You know what I'm saying?
appreciate it,
You
man.
know,
Much appreciate it. It's a
no
blessing to be
problem.
here, man. Because well, my production partner, Key and DJ Styles, the one that hooked me up with
Yeah.
you guys. He was like, "Hey, man, you want to do this interview?" And I'm like, "Of course." I want, you know, what I mean, it's like, yeah, of course, we want to do interviews. This is the way, how people get to know about you now. You know what I mean? It's like it's really an artist's dream right now to be in to come from the old way things were done to the way it's done now. It's
Yeah.
like the same as going into the studio. I'm so glad I was in the studio when you had 2-inch tapes and all that kind of stuff and the big old boards versus now when we have Pro Tools, Logic, and all that. I appreciate it so much because I remember how it was. You know what I mean? I remember how it was. So even now, you'd have to go through so much to get people to do an interview. What we're doing right now, man, it was, you know what I mean? You couldn't just do it. You had to have it set up by all these top execs and
Oh
all this
man.
kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So when you
I
can
can
be
imagine,
interviewing,
man.
when you can interview all the people that you have access to, and when you choose um, to spend time interviewing and just talking to me about where I've been and what I've done and where I'm going, man, that's a blessing. We should never forget that. Nobody should ever forget that. That's just, you know what I mean? That's flowers on both sides.
Yeah. And I appreciate you, man. You the first one that actually said it on here, and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Cause I could just imagine, man, you go into like a talk show and you backstage, they put like the studio makeup on you, whatever clothes you pick it to wear and stuff, you on there for like 15 minutes. You're like, dang, I put us on for nothing, man. I could have just done that at home.
all that. And it was funny because I remember when we were, I was just a teenager and we were over at Warner. And back
Yeah.
then, to go into the label and you go into a big room where they had these big tables and everything, and you just stayed there all day and they would just send interviewers in. You know what I mean? It's just like different magazines, different radio. You just sit there and then they'd be like, okay, we're gonna take 10 minutes and then the K101's coming in. You know what I mean? And then after that, Live
Yeah.
Max, you know what I mean? You just sat at the label all day and they just brought people in and you answered the same questions all day over and over and over again. And it's easy when you're a teen because you just thinking like, man, this is cool. You know what I mean? But as you get older, you realize you go like, man, you have to make the most of those moments because people don't get a chance to hear your voice. They hear you sing, they see what you do, but they don't get a chance to hear you. You know what I mean? Talking like we doing right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, we live in a time where it's like, You know, it's one thing, you know, it's one to be, what was the word, relevant and stay
Hmm.
consistent. You know, you got some radios and podcasts, and it talk about one particular song. After that, it just be about whatever,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like, and whenever I see an interview, I'm like, okay, like what direction we gonna go in?
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know, so that's the sad part about that. Because now I remember as a kid, you know, watching your videos premiere on TV. You know, it was like back then, as far as the solo, it was like was
Yeah.
you, Glenn Jones. Oh
Hmm.
God, it was Keith Sweat. You know, it's like you could go nowhere without hearing your song on the radio, on
Uh-huh.
TV and stuff. And I'm like, man, I miss the days where, you know, television was about music videos, as far as like those who marketed music videos and stuff, you
Yeah.
know. Now it's like everybody wants a reality show compared to what you see now and everything
True.
and stuff, you know.
True.
But
True.
I wanna I wanna run it back to where it all started when you was a kid. So like as a child, when you was growing up, what you know, what was your earliest inspirations, you know, growing up as a kid, as far as like what did you want to do?
When I grew up. I was the youngest of the boys. So when I grew up, my dad. Let me give you just a quick thing. My dad, uh, Louisiana native. He was a singer, a musician as well, and he had a quartet group called the Zinaires. So
Right.
as I was a little kid still running around in diapers, in our living rooms on Fridays and Saturdays, they would rehearse in the living room, the whole band set up. And they were like, you had the Mighty Clouds of Joy, you had the gospel keynotes, you had all that. They were the Zinaires in the Bay Area, and they rehearsed religiously, like every Friday and Saturday. You know what I mean? And so I'm a little kid just sitting in there, you know what I mean, just
Yeah.
watching it go down, how they put harmonies together, how to, you know what I mean? You're a kid, you just looking, amazed at this. And my brother was a little older than I, and then I remember my oldest brother, uh, Daryl, who goes as Classic Man now, but he was guitar player for the band. I remember when he first joined my dad's quartet as the guitar player. I remember
Right.
that was our drive. Like, we couldn't wait to get old enough so we can be in, you know what I mean, in the
Yeah.
Zion family band. You know what I mean? So music was just in all of us. My sister, my brothers. It was just something that was just second nature to us because we ate it, slept it, heard it, rode to it. Sam Cooke, although was my favorite singer as a little child, that's been my favorite. He's my number one pick all through life. Because as a kid, listening to A
Yeah.
Track, driving from California to Louisiana, you heard everybody. But when he put the Sam Cooke tapes on, man, I would just be just in awe, like, whoa,
Wow.
that voice. You know what I mean? It was just something. When you get goosebumps as a kid, and you go like, that's what I want to do. I want to make people feel like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, so I've
Yeah.
always in music.
Go ahead.
I always wanted to be in music. Basketball was a love, but when I realized I wasn't getting no taller than 6 feet, I didn't I didn't keep going with the basketball. But but I did love it. I ain't gonna lie, I loved it, man. I
Yeah.
loved it. Just,
If if you got drafted in the NBA, what team you would love to play for if that was, you know, like your go-to besides music?
well, at a time it would have been the Bulls when Mike was there.
Oh
Okay,
man.
yeah, when Mike was there,
Yeah.
it was the Bull. It would have been the Bulls. Right now, I'm a Warriors fan because I love Curry. Um, I don't know. It depends for what reason. If I just wanted to say I wanted to go play with an individual, it would be the Warriors because Curry. You know what I mean? Because
Oh yeah,
you watched him grow into this superhero. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he just stepped on the court and was a superhero. You watched him work his way into being the player he is. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Um, I would have loved to have played with Kobe when Kobe was still playing and when Kobe was alive, because he was the next best thing to Mike to me. But I'd say, yeah, it would be the Warriors if I could play with anybody. I mean, there's some awesome players out there. Don't get me wrong, but when I look at the whole player, like the whole lifestyle, the family, the belief, the whole thing, I would say Curry. He's an inspiration for me. And I don't usually look for like role models in people, but if I had to pick one, I would say it would be him.
yeah. He definitely came a long way. You know,
Yeah.
just here's a kid that came from Davidson, you know, college, you know, and then he was son of an NBA player, Dale Curry. And who would have thought that his career would have lasted the way it did, and to beat some of the teams and stuff, he had threes, man, like it's just a regular, ordinary day, man. I ain't never seen nothing like that.
He's changed the game, and his drive and his handles, and the way he drives to the basket, man, it's just amazing. It's amazing to watch where he was and where he is. He was good, but now he's great. You know what I mean? It's to watch that transformation. And I think that other guy, he's got that too now. That what's his name? The one that plays for Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah. Shy, something, yeah.
Gilgalis,
Yeah, guys, something like it. Yeah, the bro with the braids, yeah.
Yeah. I watched him play since he's been in the playoff. And I watched him play, man, and I looked at him and I said, I've been spending so much time other than Curry watching all these flashy players, skying through the air and doing all this stuff. And I said, that dude is an all-around player. He is just now. He just now tied Michael Jordan and a few others for the most consecutive 30-point games in the postseason. You know what I mean?
He came a long way, man.
Yeah,
I know the Clippers. I know the Clippers feel stupid of letting that brother go.
Yeah, they have to.
That's the real truth and stuff. Yeah. So like when you was coming up, so in between, the sports and everything, music, how did the whole Club Nouveau thing happen?
Well, we had moved from Berkeley to a suburb called Hercules, and attending Pinot Valley. When I was a freshman, there was a senior, because we all played basketball, and we used to be on the bus. You come back on the bus after games, away games, and guys would be joking and teasing each other and stuff like that, and playing around. And I would sing sometimes, and Denzel, which is Denzel Foster from Foster McElroy.
Oh yeah,
the producers from Club Nouveau, Tony, and Vogue, my solo stuff, and many others. He said, man, boy, you got a nice voice, and I'm thinking, oh, thanks, man. We just tease, play around. He said, man, when I'm planning on, getting into music and doing some producing and stuff like that when I get out of, when I graduate, because he was like a senior, I was a freshman. He's about to leave when I got there. Yeah. And didn't think nothing of it. You know what I mean? And then 4 years later, I walk out of high school thinking, okay, what's the next chapter in life? I'm going to go to college, probably play basketball for a minute, you know what I mean? And just kind of figure it out, what I'm going to do. And the song Rumors came on the radio. And I was like, man, that song, that's different. Man, that's so different, and it was moving, it started playing all the time. And then my friend said, that Denny had something to do with that, right? Denzel, we call him Denny, right? Denny had something to do with that. And I was like, what would, and I said I kid you not, I said, man, he told me, of course, this was 4 years ago, when he started doing music, he was going to call me.
That's crazy, man.
He told me he was going to call me when he started doing music. And I said, see, that's how people are. They just be talking, right? I kid you not. It was summertime, July. I can't remember the exact date. It was in July, but we were getting ready to go to Black Family Day, which they used to have at UC Davis, out there in California at University. And they had all the Greek, different shows, stomp shows and everything. And I was about to walk out of the house. And the phone rang, and I started not to answer it. I'm like, man, we getting ready to go. You know what I mean? I'm like, and it was a house phone because, I was just out of high school. So you still living at home, right? So I'm thinking that can be for anybody. But it was also at the time and era when somebody called a house, you never just didn't answer, right? You never knew who it was. Could be for your mom, could be for your dad. I grabbed the phone, and guess who? I grabbed the phone, and guess who it was?
Was it Mark?
It was Denzel.
Wow.
It was Denny. And what is the first thing I said? I said, hello? He said, what's up, Sam? I said, who's this? He said, I said, man, I thought when you I heard what's your name told me you just did that song Rumors. I thought you said you was going. I didn't even say, what's up, man? How you been? I said, I thought you said. He said, why you think I'm calling you now? Are you available Monday? I kid you not. He said, you available Monday? I said, yeah, what's up? He said, I'm going to be up there in Hercules. He lived one city over from me. He said, I want you to come by. I want to try out on something. And I said, wow. Cool. Went to Great Black Family Weekend, did all that stuff. Monday, went over to his mom's house, tried me out on some stuff that he was working on, and said, man, okay. And he was there with a gentleman at the time. I didn't know who he was, but it was Jay King. And he said, "Hey man, I'm gonna give you a call. And we're gonna talk about it. Give you a call." He gave me a call like about a day later. Said, "Hey, we doing this. We did the Timex thing, but they signed with somebody else. This time we're gonna do it again, but we have a girl, which is Valerie Watson at the time. She's Valerie English now, and we want you to be the male lead vocalist, and she'll be the female lead vocalist, and we're gonna form a group ourselves. You in?" I said, "Oh yeah." I kid you not. Like a week later, we went to the studio in Alameda, recorded "Jealousy."
Wow.
Then a week later, Situation Number 9. And right after we did that, they released "Jealousy" like right away. And poop, next thing we know, we had a possible album deal with Warner Bros. Man, I'm telling you, it happened. You know, people say it don't happen like that.
Mm-hmm.
It happened like that. You know, they had already, I guess, been in the works of doing stuff behind the scenes. But when I came on the scene and me and Val went to the studio and recorded, it just started going, man. It just started going. Next thing you know, we are performing. And within from 86, from like, I'd say August of 86, between August of 86 and August of 87, man, we was like #1 in the nation. That quick. Warner Brothers, Benny Medina signed us, and man, we all over the world at that time. You know what I mean? Just
Wow.
within that window. So people can't tell me it ain't possible. It's possible.
Yeah, with the what was your reaction when you saw, your face, like on posters, billboards, and everything, at that time, especially as a young man? I know you was like, wow, man, that's actually me right there,
You know, I didn't really, it wasn't so much because it wasn't like now where your face
Yeah,
and pictures are everywhere. And even on the album, remember we had the artwork. We didn't have our pictures on the album back then. We had
yeah,
the art. So it was more for me like the videos. And I think first time you hear yourself on radio, you get that 5 heartbeat thing. Remember the first time they had this song on the radio?
yeah,
Because you don't expect it. You're talking to somebody and you hear a song, you go, "Hey." Matter of fact, I was talking to my other brother and we were doing something, working out or something in the garage, and we just talking, chatting it up, and the song came on the radio. And he said, "What song is that?" And I said, "That's the song I was just telling you about that we just did." He said, "No, no." And it was from, you know what I mean? So that was more to me than everything else. It was more so of hearing yourself for the first time on radio, and being in a music video after watching Video Soul and all that stuff all those years. You know what I mean? It was,
yeah,
yeah, it was a pleasure to see yourself up like that. But live performances was always more fun for me. You know what I mean? Because that's what we grew up doing. We grew up singing church and gospel
yeah,
quartets and stuff like that. So being able to go out and put smiles on people's faces and make them move, make them dance and make them smile, that was a lot more what I was used to. But I never really got hung up into the photos and the Billboard. I mean, our names is up. You know what I mean? It was almost like my thing was like, yeah, let's go kick some butt tonight. You know what I mean? Let's
yeah.
go out and put it down. We were blessed to have hits. You know what I mean? So it's just like, now let's just go and show them who do it. You know what I mean? How we get down. That was more of me. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. It was more of like a sport. You know what I mean? I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's go show them how we get out. You know what I mean? We doing real singing, real dance. You know what I mean? So that was more to me, I think, than anything else.
Yeah, because like whenever I ask a guest about because I don't like looking on TV watching Soul Train, look like a big old room,
Yeah.
a big old studio, and then everybody said, nah, man, it's actually small, look like
Yeah.
you inside of a church or something like that.
Yeah, it's not big at all. It looks like it's just like a sound stage room. You know what I mean? It's like you go to a club that's meant for live performances. It's not real big,
Yeah,
it's intimate. It's like that. It's got a right and left, and it got a little stuff in there. But the stage is not that big. But it's not tiny, but it ain't big at all. You know what I mean? You can tell it's set up for exactly what it's set up for, to have perfect lighting and stuff like that. But that was a joy, to watch that your whole childhood and then to be on there. You know what I mean? That was a definite joy.
yeah. Wasn't like, talking to Dr. Cornelius, the D voice, how you doing?
He was exactly like I thought he was going to be. It was like, you see him the whole time and he sounded the same and he acted the same. He was like, "You guys know, how's it feel?" You know what I mean? It was just,
Yeah.
it was funny to me because I was going, you never really said, "I'm going to be there one day," but you just always said, "If I ever get there," you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was a goal back then. You know what I mean? If you got in Jet Magazine, I don't know if you're familiar with Jet Magazine, but
No,
if you
Jet
was in Jet
back then.
Magazine, if you was in Jet Magazine or got to Soul Train or something like that, man, that was thing that you made it. That was like, yeah, we made it. Everybody's seeing you on there because you know everybody watched Soul Train every Saturday. You know, the world
Man,
watched Soul Train.
the third single, Lean on Me. And I'm gonna tell you, man, dude, I remember I was about like I just turned 6 years old. As a kid, I remember it premiered on Video Soul.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was watching Club TV. It popped on there. That VH1 and everything was a #1 pop single, R&B and dance. You know, and also #1 in Canada and New Zealand. Man, that's crazy. You know, when y'all was recording that song, Lean on Me, did you think that song was gonna be a bigger hit, or it was just a song that you knew it was good for the public to hear?
You know what? It was funny because we had pretty much had the album almost pretty much all done, and we had a show somewhere on the East Coast, New York or somewhere, and we had a break and we went to the Bahamas for a few days. And while we were there, you know, you take in that Bahama culture, you know, everything reggae music was fluent, Caribbean music, and they pretty much take every R&B hit over here and they put their twist on it. You know, back then the Luther
Yeah,
songs, the Jeffrey Osborne songs, and it was amazing to be over there to witness that. And then we come back, and Denzel Foster always wanted to do that song. He always wanted to redo
right.
that song again because it was a song, you know, everybody grew up as a kid. It's probably the only song everybody knew how to play on the piano, whether you know how to play piano or not. Everybody learned that one. Dun, 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 dun. So he wanted to do it. So when we got back, we said, okay, well, that's fine. We can do it. So when we went in, coming fresh back from the Bahamas, that's where I believe we got most of that. We be Jamon, Mount Hey. You know what I mean? We had just got back. So
Yeah,
we brought how they kind of did stuff, you know,
that's dope.
to R&B over there, and that's that Caribbean flavor. And you know, of course, Denny was a big fan of the go-go. You know what I mean? That's why you hear that boom, boom, boom. That's like that
Yeah,
in the butt. That's like that kind of feel. So that just all played into it, man. Timing is everything. What can I say? It's
yeah,
like, you know, you can't, like people say, you can't make that kind of stuff up. You know what I mean? It's what's happening in life at the times that you do certain things means everything. And that's
yeah. It is though. Yeah, that song got picked it on the movie Lean on Me, and they used that. You know, like in the middle of where Mr. Clark was,
yeah,
make sure the kids got the grades up and stuff,
yeah.
you know, everything. Then I remember when I saw the movie, I said, wait a minute, that's a song from Club Nouveau. You know, you know, it's crazy. And that was perfect how to use that song for that soundtrack and stuff.
Yeah,
You
no, it
know,
was definitely
so
it was definitely a huge hit, man. And the way they put that video together with all the classical film dances and stuff like that from, you know, around the world, all the different
yeah,
Warner did their thing with that. They really stepped up, you know, and made it happen, and they gave it a world feel versus a local feel. You know what I mean? It was like
yeah,
world could relate to it, you know, at that time. But it was fun, man. It was fun times. Those times were some fun times.
yeah. You know, it's crazy. You know how some label executives is like with certain songs they are so a fan of, they invest in that song so much, where it's like you got other songs that match with it on your album,
Yeah,
and everybody just pick and choose. Because I always say, like, bring a group of fans, like 20 people in a studio, and then play the album. A fan's gonna tell you this song is a hit or not.
yeah,
You know, okay, we'll be the first 5 songs, you know, should be the singles, and the fans will tell you straight up.
yeah,
You know, instead of somebody in the studio will be like, I don't think that should be the lead single. No,
yeah,
how
yeah,
we know we should get this? How do you know? You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? So, it's crazy when it gets to that. Uh, the next single, "Why You Treat Me So Bad," that song, I'm gonna tell you that I didn't realize it that the rap group sampled that for that song. I got 5 on it.
hmm
And I'll never forget this recently when I played on YouTube like months back. I said, okay, that's where they got it from.
Yeah,
You know, I said
yeah,
that makes sense and stuff.
yeah. It was that, and who else used it? A few people used it. Was it was it R. Kelly? I think R. Kelly used
Yeah,
it too.
R. Kelly did. Yeah, he used
Kelly,
it
yeah,
for one of his songs and stuff.
yeah. I think at one time it was the most sampled song at one time. I don't think it is now, but at one time it was the most sampled song of all time. At one time,
Yeah,
people were just taking bits and pieces of it. You know, the intro, you know, something. You know what I mean? But they definitely loved that because it was a big thing when that movie Us came out. You know, they used it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so like whenever you get a call or say, hey, we want to, use your music and stuff, does it go to like the whole group of the producers collectively or go to like one main person or whatever?
Well, when it comes to music like that, what they'll do is whoever owns the masters is who does they'll like. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, see that would have been Tommy Denny, the Foster McElroy and Jadam. They owned the publishing. Well, they wrote the songs. I don't know, but they would have been the whatever publishing company they had. They're the ones who do the licensing for television, movies, and soundtracks and stuff like that.
Yeah. So after celebrating the success of the album, now how many sales is it now? Like, is it up to like? Well, I know back then they'll say platinum and stuff like that. Is it up to like 5-6 million as far as the album? The first album, Life, Love and Pain.
Yeah, it's way up there in the millions now because it was platinum back in 86, 87. So
Yeah.
It went double, and then from then to now, yeah, we'll never know.
Man.
But it's been in the millions. Yeah.
So like in 1988, the second album, Listen to the Message. And now what was the shift change going from the first album to the second album at that time?
Well, see, the second album was a different crew, different people.
Yeah.
See, the first album, it was myself, Valerie, Tommy, Denny, Jay. The second album, myself, Tommy, and Denny, we weren't there on the second album. We started working on the second album, but then couldn't come to an agreement on a certain thing, so then we weren't there for the second album. Just Jay and Val was there for the second album, and then he went out and got different members, kind of created another group and another band. So I was on none of the second album, just the first.
First, okay.
Yeah, just the first and main album.
Yeah. Oh, okay, cool, man. Yeah, because I was wondering, man. I was like, wait a minute, I wonder what happened and stuff. Yeah, so like, so around that time, you thought to yourself, like, okay, I did this for like a year, so I want the world to know, okay, who is Samuel, Samuelle, saying, who am I, Was it kind of like a slow pace, like, okay, I know people saw me from this, but how can I introduce them to the world, me as a solo artist?
Well, what's funny is because I didn't do that. It was almost like when I was off of Warner, me, Tommy, and Denny, we were off from Warner's, okay? And when we came back, we got a 3-act deal with Atlantic, with Sylvia Rome. And Sylvia was over, remember, she was the head over all three.
Oh, man.
Warner, Wea, and Elektra. So Sylvia was the most powerful woman in music.
Yeah. That's something else.
Yeah, and she signed us. She signed Foster McElroy, the production company, to a 3-act deal, which was myself, In Vogue, and there was another group called the Funky Nation.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
But see, even before that had happened, Foster McElroy had produced on the Tony.
Okay, yeah.
Remember that was in between from the Club Nouveau before my stuff and In Vogue stuff came out. Remember Tony hit the scene. So while we were waiting for contractual stuff to clear up and couldn't work, you can't do certain things just when you first leave a label and all that.
Yeah.
They worked on Tony. So we would come in. So myself, In Vogue, and the girls from In Vogue, Dawn, Cindy, Terry, Maxine, we would come in and do studio sessions, like backgrounds, harmony, for different projects, stuff that they were working on, keeping us busy. And then once we got the deal with Sylvia, she signed those 3 acts. Then In Vogue was first, because Denny wanted to step away from the basic norm. He wanted to produce a female band so bad, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so they hand selected these girls and put them together, and of course the rest is history when you think of In Vogue. But they wanted to do that. And then right after that, then it was me with then we came out with my first single, So You Like What You See, which was #1 on Billboard. So they were on a roll. Yeah, it was on the roll for a while. But it was, so we had major success. But I never carried and told people, you remember me from here, but now I'm here. I never did. You know what I mean? I probably should, because there's still people to this day that don't even know that I'm the same person.
Wow, that's crazy.
Because remember, they just knew us as Club Nouveau, not really individuals. So when I went solo, Samuelle to them was like a new artist. You know what I mean? He's like, yeah. We had a handful of people that knew, oh yeah, that's dude, but the majority didn't know. You know what I mean? It was just like,
Yeah.
oh, dude, it's stuff. And still to this day, radio people will go, you know, we're talking about Club Nouveau, and then they go, and somebody come in and say, Samuelle, hey, that Samuelle. And we go, yeah, so you like what you see? Man, I bumped that in my car. I did not know. Even radio people didn't know because we didn't make a big play on it. Like I said, if I can go back and change it, I would have, made sure everybody knew, hey, same guy over here. Because you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
they didn't even realize it was the same person. So,
And that's crazy, because sometimes with labels, they kind of play it that way where, like, okay, you got like the lead singer or the co-lead singer, and they kind of like market, whereas like
yes.
you forget about the rest of the band member and say, wait a minute, everybody got talent too, But it's crazy to manipulate the fans to thinking
Yeah.
that this person is one way
Yeah.
and another and stuff,
Yeah. I
and
wonder.
everything.
Sometimes I wonder because it was because the breakup wasn't, because remember, the breakup with the band wasn't like people just decided to go. It just, it was irreconcilable differences or whatever you want to call it. So I guess maybe they were like, let's leave the negativity over there. Let's just, you know what I mean? Because everything had took off, and Vogue had already took off. My stuff had took off. I remember when we finished the album, and Sylvia came by. She flew in from New York to listen, and she was listening to the music. And as soon as So You Like What You See came on, she said, "Oh, that's it. That's going to be the number one single of the summer. Sam, you ready for another number one single?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "That's going to be." She said, "That's going to be a number one single." She got up and she said, "All right, got to get back to New York. Prepare for another number one," and left. She didn't even finish listening to the whole album. And I'm thinking like, that was only the fourth, fifth song in.
Dang.
She just knew. As soon as
They
she
didn't get a chance to hear the whole project.
as soon as she heard it, she just went, mm. And as soon as the vocals came in, every day now, she said, "Oh," and it got halfway through the song. So you like what? That's gonna be it. That's gonna be the biggest song of the summer. She got up and got busy, and I'd be damned if it wasn't.
I want to show you this right here.
Okay.
The album cover. I don't know if you can see it or not.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Is that the single?
Man, so where was you at when y'all did this photo shoot at?
That was in LA, man. That was downtown LA. The photographer at the time, photographers and videographers, they got a good eye for stuff. And when I met him, like the day before, when I flew in to LA, because I was in Northern Cali, SoCal. So when I flew in, I met him and he looked, he said, "Man, you know what? I'm looking at you right now." He said, "I had a whole different idea of what I wanted to do inside and stuff." He said, "But now that I see you, I got some ideas for outside." He said, "The problem is it's too late for me to get permits. You got to get permits for certain things." He said, "So we gonna get in, we gonna shoot this and get out before anybody can, come up and mess with us." And the next day, man, we went downtown and it was some cool areas. And when he found those stairs, I looked, I said, "Damn, this almost remind me of like the Roman, how the Colosseum, how the steps went like this.
Yeah.
And that's where the photos came out, and that's the one they chose. And I said, that was a dope picture.
Wow, man. This looks like because I've been in LA, it looks like it's off of Wilshire Avenue or something like that, where they got like it's like a build like different steps and everything.
Yeah. So that was way back. Downtown LA didn't change so much now.
Yeah. Man. For you, how did you get the name Living in Black Paradise for the album title?
Well, because Denny, there's a song on the album called Black Paradise. And we did that, and then we started doing all the other songs and stuff like that. Then we had to come up with a title for it, so we kind of just threw stuff off, and he was like, Black Paradise, Black Paradise. And then I thought about it. I said, yeah, and then I can't remember exactly who said that would be a nice album title for the album. You know what I mean? But I just remember thinking of the song Black Paradise. To me, it wasn't about being black as a culture, but it was like blacking out all the negativity, that was going on, and being in the paradise. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a play on words. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, just Black Paradise just sounded good, and then living in Black Paradise. When you what was I, like 22, 23 years old, living my best life, like to say, living my best life. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it just fit. If you think of the song Greedy Man, it just fit.
Yeah,
it
man.
fit. You know, it
So
fit.
that ended up becoming like the second single, Black Paradise, was
Yeah.
a top R&B hit, lasted for like 14 weeks, the countdown. Because I can only imagine, to have hear this your first single going number one on the Billboard charts.
Hmm.
Then it's always that second single you pray like, man, please, I hope this song, man, really breaks their energy into and stuff. Is it kind of like a headache when it comes to like dealing with label executives? They tell you one thing, then they tell you another.
Well,
You know, yeah,
as an artist, I didn't have to deal with, the artist didn't deal with that. That management dealt with that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like nowadays, I would probably be dealing directly with them. You know what I mean? But back then, your management dealt with that. You didn't really deal with the execs and the AR persons, people and stuff like that. Not the artists
yeah,
themselves. You know what I mean? Um, they were talking about a second single, but I thought Greedy Man or Stay With Me should have been second.
yeah. That man, hey, that was a fire right there, man. That should have been,
You know,
single the video behind that.
yeah, because I thought about So You Like What You See. I thought about the track, the movement, the energy, and I thought about like what it was saying, and I said, man, so why don't we go to Greedy Man now? You know what I mean? It's just like because they both were in the same vein. Here's this young dude thinking he's confident. So I thought that would be great. But I said if we slow it down, I think we should go to Stay With Me, because that would, to me, Stay With Me would have taken you from here to there. See,
Yeah,
I love Black Paradise, but it was just like I thought that should have been, it's the title cut. I thought that should have been maybe third, fourth, something like that. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
but somehow they wanted to do Black Paradise, and
yeah. Because like,
yeah.
yeah, because if you had to choose, well, you would have picked like, I mean, if they allow you to at least get like six singles, well, you would have done it. As far as like six videos for that
Hmm.
album.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If they
because
would if they would have let me, yeah, I would did So You Like, Black Paradise, Greedy Man, definitely. Stay With Me, Take My Heart. I'm trying to think of a six. What would I have done for the sixth one? Touched by Your Love.
wow, that'd be a good set off.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that'd
Touched
be a good
by
set
your
off.
love. But see, I didn't realize the importance at one time of how strategically releasing certain songs makes a
Yeah,
big difference. You know what I mean? It makes a big difference, man. See, now they can just pick whatever they want, but back then they would have put the machine behind each one. You know what I mean? To get you there. Now you understand how the Ushers and the Chris Brown, they strategically released those songs in those videos so they knew who they were going to drive to see your show. You know what I
oh
mean?
yeah, because especially with the internet, man, those fans they be demanding label like, hey, let's hurry up before they jump on us real
Yes,
bad.
that's what I'm saying.
Because
Now they know how to do it. They strategically go, let's push this, and then that's who you're gonna see at the show. And isn't it funny how you think about that? It's like whoever your song music is being marketed to
yeah,
is who you want to see come out.
yeah,
And whoever you put in your video, whether you got a club scene or whatever, that's the people that you visually see in the video. Those are the people that's coming to your show. You know what I mean?
yeah.
That's who's coming. You know what I mean? So I mean, you think about it, you go, that subliminal message they like sending, like, if you look like this and you dance like this and you like this, come on out. You know what I mean? It's just like they're telling you this is who we want to see, basically.
Yeah, absolutely and stuff. Now, like between 91, 95, you took a break from like recording as far as actively. Now
Yeah.
you was working with Alexander O'Neal, Michael Cooper, and F Bob. So I'm gonna start with Alexander O'Neal. What's some of the songs you worked with him, Alexander O'Neal at that
Well, see,
time?
I didn't. That was Foster McElroy. They were doing Alexander O'Neal.
Oh, okay.
I was just blessed to be around, when they were working on the track, what I mean, doing the music and stuff for him, because they flew out to Minneapolis to do his vocals. I didn't go. I was at their studios here in California when they were working on the stuff,
Yeah.
because we were in there working on the Funk Mob album at the same time. Me, myself, and
Okay.
Vogue. we were in there doing vocals and all kind of arrangements and stuff like that. So while they were doing all that, those dudes were busy at that time. They were working on all that stuff at the same time. But I didn't never personally get to work with Alexander O'Neal myself.
Oh, okay. Was it kind of like the same thing with Michael Cooper? Kind of like you just do your parts, and they don't come in the next day or whatever.
Well, Michael Cooper, that was that was um, that was more Jay King working with Michael Cooper.
Oh, okay.
Michael Cooper and we're great friends, but I didn't. It's like a song that he did, "Prove My Love to You." I sang that
Oh
song.
man.
I sang that song first
Oh, okay.
because they were like, "Hey, you want to?" You know, I mean, it wasn't really like at the time. It wasn't really a style of song, even though it fit him perfectly. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I sang it, and it was just like, it was like, yeah, that's good. But Michael Cooper, when Jay started working with Michael Cooper, that song fit him perfect. You know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
it was a grown song. You know what I mean? I was still a youngster, kind of wild running. You know what I mean? It was a grown man
Yeah.
song, and he killed that thing. He did his thing on that "Prove My Love." So, yeah.
Yeah, big shout out to Michael Cooper. I interviewed him last year of April and stuff. I had a
Great,
good time interviewing that brother.
great guy, man. Great friend of mine. I love Michael Cooper, man. Great guy.
Yeah, now between that 4-year gap, you put out your second album. All that matters to me. So, what was your direction you want to go in with that album at that time?
Well, we worked on a full album, but we didn't. We left Atlantic like before we released that album. Um, but all that matters to me was it was one of those songs where I wanted to do something a little different, vocally. And Denny was working. Him and Tommy were working on the track and everything like that. So I came by the studio one day, and then the guys from Pleasure. I don't know if you're familiar with Pleasure, Marley McClain and Nate.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
yeah, I remember.
Nate
Yeah.
and Marley McClain. Yeah, Marley McClain actually plays with Daz Band now, but they had a group called
All
Pleasure.
right.
Yeah, they had a group called Pleasure. There was a band called Pleasure. They were bad, and they were laid a beat. And when Marley did that guitar, I said, "Oh, this is my time. I get to do more of a Sam Cooke feel type vocal song." That's why when you listen to that song, when you hear me doing that, oh, that's where I got a
Yeah,
chance
more of a
to.
Santa Field, yeah.
That's where I got a chance to do kind of a Sam Cooke feel. You know what I mean? It was just like, and it was just that old. It was, oh man, I still got an idea for the video for that. I ain't gonna tell you online because I don't want nobody to steal it.
Yeah.
But I swear, man, I still have an idea for a video for that song because it just has that timeless. It has that timeless thing about it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, absolutely.
it's simple, honest, and sincere. You know what I mean? When you listen to the lyrics of that song, it's not the clothes you wear or how you wear your hair. It's just the things you do that keeps me hanging on to you. You know what I mean? The words and the lyrics and the
Yeah.
so natural. I said, I can't wait to do the video for that because it's just gonna it's a visual. Now you can go, you know what I mean? Because we've gotten so over the top with all these graphics and all this stuff. We've kind of oversimplified certain things. So I said, I want to simplify certain songs again where the song matches the video. I get it.
Absolutely.
I get it because people hear songs, videographers, they're artists too. So they'll hear your music and they have a way of, capturing the song. You know what I mean? A lot of times we go, what
Yeah.
is all that? You know what I mean? But it's art. You know what I mean? But I said for some of my stuff, I just want to, so you tell a story, just simply mini movie, tell a story where you can see, oh, this is what this guy's talking about. This is who he's talking to. This is what he's, you know what I mean? And just capture it simple. I might even want to do it in black and white, or that sepia tone, you know what I mean? Just to keep the element so it's timeless like that. You know what I mean? But
Absolutely.
yeah. But it was in Money Train. It was in Money Train.
Okay, yeah. With Lawrence Fishburne, I can't think of the other guy's name.
No, it was Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson and
Woody Harrelson, yeah, that
J-Lo.
movie. I don't know. I'm thinking about the other one. I know you're talking about. Yeah,
and J-Lo. J-Lo was the first time I ever met J-Lo was when we did when they were doing the listening, the viewing of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was for Money Train. It was in that scene when he was dancing with her in the bar.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah. They had to involve and we're under the same production, same management. So yeah, we got that. It wasn't on the soundtrack disc, but it was in the movie. Yeah, so it's funny how
So,
people go, I heard your song in the movie. I said, you found it in that little spot. But people, they said, I know your voice. I knew your voice. I said, okay. Okay, yeah.
yeah. So as time went on, about like 2 years later, you and your brother, did like a joint together. It was called "Don't Worry, There's a Love in the Ghetto."
Oh, yeah, that was me and my brother, Dylan. Yeah, well, he goes by Classic Man now. But yeah, we did that. We did that joint, Love in the Ghetto. And it was fun because, as kids, I was the youngest of the boys. He was the oldest. And we always were writing and stuff, even as little kids, you know what I mean? Because, we grew up watching the Jacksons and everything. So we always go and write and perform little songs in the garage. My other brother did too, but he wasn't, even though he can sing and he played bass. My oldest brother, D-Led, he plays guitar and sings. But my other brother, Ronnie, didn't want to. He,
Right.
he didn't care about doing it. So me and Dylan, we always were the ones doing writing and singing. So we did that. And then we liked that. And then we did a whole album. That's just a single. We did a whole album called Secrecy, called
Right.
Love Season. It was, yeah. We call ourselves Secrecy. And it's Love Season. Some nice tracks on there.
Yeah, because for you it was like, wow, I went from like a music band to my solo. Then I did a do one thing with my brother.
Mm-hmm.
You never thought yourself like I call it more like a what's that word? Like kind of like a triple threat. Like one day you might see by myself, might
Yeah.
see with a group of people, whatever. Where you look
Yeah.
back, be like, okay, I did everything I was supposed to do. Go ahead.
I love the art. I love the artistry, man. And it's funny because I'm not comparing myself to Michael Jackson, but I think one of the most purest things I've ever seen Mike do was when he was performing with his brothers on the award show that time. And remember, he was jamming all the old
Yeah,
school stuff, and all of a sudden he said, I love those songs. I love those days. But I also like
yeah,
the new days. And then when he went into Billie Jean, doom, 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 remember the brothers all left, and then he went
yeah.
in.
They all left. Yeah,
When I saw that, I said, that was an epitome of class. The way he came out, did all those hits, all that ABC, dun, 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 all them big hits.
yeah,
And they remember they waved and walked off, and Mike said, "Yeah, those were the good days." He said,
yeah, yeah,
but he said, but I also like the new days. Remember, he grabbed his brim and put his head down and doom, doom.
yeah.
Dude, that was the best
It
award
felt
show.
like a movie, man. I swear.
Best award show hands down of all times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nobody will remember that. The Motown, whatever that was, Motown 25, whatever it was, everybody's going to remember that because I said, see, you don't have to be a one horse pony. You know what I mean? You don't have to
No.
just do one thing. I mean, I love country, I love gospel, I love folk, pop, R&B, classic. I love doing it all. And then Ray Charles, when I saw that movie, and Ray Charles was telling his label he wanted to do country, they said, "You can't do country." He said, "Why can't I?"
Exactly.
Remember that movie, Ray? Remember he was sitting up there and the label was telling him, "You can't do country," and Jamie Foxx played the heck out of Ray. And
Yep.
and he said, "Why can't I?" And he went on to
Exactly. It came from us. We created country western.
he put that country song out, probably one of the biggest sellers. You see what I'm saying? The biggest sellers he had. Marvin
Yep.
Gaye. Marvin Gaye wanted to do What's Going On. Motown didn't want nothing to do with it because they didn't want to deal with the controversy, of what was going on with the Jim Crow and all that kind of stuff. Marvin did it anyway on his own dime. Biggest selling album he ever had.
Yeah. I tell you, man. I know Barry felt dumb on that one. Like you can't escape away from what man, what people needed to hear.
No, you can't, man. You cannot do it. Like I said, when you hear my solo project that's coming out, it's going to be so many different songs, an eclectic array of songs, and none of them are just exactly the same. It's going
Yeah.
to. I'm gonna have Caribbean reggae here. I'm gonna have message music here, inspirational gospel here. I did an amazing song, man, called "Lift My Voice" with Derek DOA Allen.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, I interviewed him 2 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I did a song and I said, I need some music that tells a story, man. And we're friends. And he said, brother, just send it to me, Sam. Send it to me. I sent it to him, man, and that brother brought that thing alive like nobody's business, man. And like I said,
Wow.
when I release these things, I'm gonna send you all these songs, man, so you can have them. And I'll get your honest feedback, but it's very powerful, man. And the Spirit brought it to me. I can't take credit. I don't take credit for writing any of my stuff because I always pray before I do anything. I pray before I do anything, man, and I let the Spirit guide me each way because I'll come up with certain lyrics and then I go, okay, all right, Spirit, now how do I clean that up? and he'll fix the words, fix this, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
it's just like I'm not trying to do this to be famous. I'm not trying to do it to be popular. I got stuff to say, and I just think it's a few people out there that just might want to hear my take on it. That's all.
Absolutely. As time went on, I know people was asking you so many times and stuff before you agreed. What was the conversation about you returning to Club Nouveau? As far as like, here we are, we in a new era, what I'm saying? Social media was coming up at the time and stuff. So what was your thought process on as far as like want to do it again?
Well, in it was like '08, '09, I think it was. And it's funny because how you start thinking back, because I was in the studio just recording, didn't have a major plan, just wanted to record because you got to stay sharp, you know
Yeah.
keep your skills sharp. And I was learning how to navigate all this new technical stuff, with all this Cubase and Logic. The computers had taken over, so you had unlimited tracks for the first time, versus back when you only had so many tracks with ADATs and all that kind of stuff. But when digital recording came out, I got excited. I went from that little 4-track where I used to do my vocals. Well, first two tape decks, and I used to have to keep flipping the tapes back and forth so I could find my harmonies and all kind of stuff. But so I got excited with the digital. I said, I'm not trying to go out and just release stuff. I just want to go in and record and just stay sharp and see where I'm at. Test yourself, see where you're at. And I was really liking some of the stuff I was doing. I said, okay, I kind of like this stuff. And it was so funny. I said, well, you know what? I'm going to go in, get serious about it, do some songs, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to perform the greatest hits. And then tie in Club Nouveau with my solo stuff and my new stuff. And the Spirit talked to me one day, and he was just like, maybe, well, I take this back. Larry Dotson had called me. As soon as I thought about what you just said, the Club Nouveau thing, the Spirit was like, hey, you never really got a chance to finish building what you helped build in the beginning,
Right.
because, things weren't right. Timing wasn't right. The situation wasn't right. But now you're grown. You know what I mean? And, you and Val never got a chance to continue on what you built. And it was amazing what you guys built. Our sound together was really tight. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I thought about it. And it's so funny. Then Larry Dotson called me one day from the Barcades, and they used to do that United We Funk tour.
Yeah. Big shout out to Larry Dawson. I interviewed him.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 years ago. Yeah, real cool down to earth brother, man.
Yeah. And they were doing that. And he called me, hey, man, we got Val, because Val was out there doing
Yeah.
background with all the bands. They had a bunch of bands on there. Everybody would be on there. And she was doing background and doing stuff. And he said, if you come out, then somewhere in the show, y'all two can come up, do the hits, man. And, and we'd be great, because they had like 20, 30, they were doing 20 cities. You know what I mean? It was pretty big, 20, 30 cities. So I said, cool. And then he was all excited. And then he called me back and he said, man. And then Jay didn't want it to happen. He changed his mind. First he said, yeah, it's fine with me, because he wasn't going out doing nothing. But then he said no, because he had decided all of a sudden he was going to do another project or something. And he knew if the people saw Val and I performing, that they wouldn't want to see what he was proposing. You know what I mean? Because he was going to come out doing something new. But they were like, we just saw the voices, the original people. Why would we want to? So he got worried about that. So he said, no, don't do it. So Larry didn't do it. So we didn't do it. And then about a little while after that, he called me. And he said, hey, I'm working on a bunch of shows and working on a bunch of dates and this and this. And, people really want to see the original members of bands, And he said, you ever thought about that? I said, yeah, definitely. Just recently, it's funny you mentioned that. I thought about, I only did 1 year with a band. We're number one for 1 year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had solo number one success away from the band, but it'd be nice to sing, to see Val, because Val and I, we stayed in touch, not like nearly like we do now, but we always would, how you doing? What you up to? Oh, I like your song. So I said, I would love to get back to singing with Val. And so I told myself, go back. That way you get to go out and finish doing what you did with Val. And he was right. Music was big. People wanted to see the original bands at the time and go out and perform the hits. So I said, it would be much easier for me to go out and perform with Val and not have to find a girl, you know what I mean, to perform the hits when I go out.
Yeah.
And I said, plus, you get to use the name, you know what I mean, the whole nostalgia of it. So in 2010, I came back and we went out. We did a lot of shows, not as many we would like, but we did a lot of shows, and for a while. But again, the same, you know, the chemistry. Val and I chemistry's tight, but the chemistry, people don't want to do right, so you gotta move on. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the bad part about it, man. It's always us. They're
always
always a
us.
problem. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That's the sad thing about it. And with her, she has a great, unique voice. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? And I always thought about. I said, man, what it would be like if she had a solo record.
Yeah.
What that would have sound like. You know what
We,
I'm saying?
if I tell you what this was the original plan when we first came together. Tommy and Denny, well, Foster McElroy, all of us came together. It was going to be, we're going to do a three albums with Club Nouveau,
Mhm.
and then Sam's going to do a solo project, and Val's going to do a solo project, and then after those solo projects, you figure you go out and tour for about a year or so off them solo projects, and then after,
Yeah,
then we were going to come back and do you know what I mean? It was all mapped out, man.
yeah.
Mapped out because they said it'd take about 3 albums. If you would have heard what the second album was going to be, if all of us would have been there instead of just Jay,
Oh man.
oh man! Like I said, what you did here, you heard the creativity when you listened to Tony's first album. That would have been our
Yeah,
stuff.
the Who album. Yeah, the album was banging
Yeah,
though.
that's what I said. That would have been our stuff. So all this
Right.
stuff and it's songs that we had talked about that never got on there ever. You know what I mean? So it was all mapped out. We do 3 albums, tour forever, blow up. Then we do Val and I each do solo stuff, and we blow up. And then later in years, and then we come back,
Yeah,
and then it's just that big old like that rock tour. You know what I mean? Because
yeah.
yeah,
That's
that's what.
crazy, man.
But
Because
man,
now I
it's
think
always
about it, I could imagine Little Walter would have been y'all joint.
that was
Wow.
another song that Denny wanted to do, just like he wanted to do "Lean on Me." That was
Mhm.
another song because growing up in the church, you wanted to take certain songs and do them kind of like an R&B way. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, that would have been,
Oh,
like I said, man. And if you think of In Vogue, a lot of that stuff would have been Val.
yeah.
You see what I'm
I can
saying?
see that. I can see that's crazy how things play out the way it did, but
Yes,
I could see her because he got that voice for it.
exactly. That's why I said when you think about all that stuff, that would have been, you know. So but it's neither here nor there. We're here now, and Valerie and I are Sam and Val, the voices, and
Yeah.
we got some nice stuff. Like I said, I'll send you. Like I said, we finished up a few things, and once it's mastered and everything like that, I'll send it to you. Get your feedback, man. You can bump it or whatever you want to do. But we got some
Oh
nice.
yeah, you got it, brother. I
We got
definitely
some,
support it, man.
well, we got some nice
Um,
stuff.
in 2016, you dropped another solo joint called
Mhm.
Heaven Sent. What motivates you to be like, you know what? Let me go ahead and put out some records out. You know what I'm saying? Because I know the fans probably be like, man, let me go drop another solo record. And stuff. Because I know you probably was hearing that as time went on and stuff.
But you know what? People kept saying, you gonna put some, but it was more or less like I wasn't really in a hurry because
Yeah,
hip hop it took over,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it
yeah.
wasn't really it wasn't really a space for a person to come out and release without the machine, which is the labels.
Yeah,
You don't need a label now, but you still needed a label in 2015. You know what I mean? It was like
yeah,
it's come a long way. Spotify and all that wasn't the way it is now. You know what I mean? Back then, you didn't have all these streaming, all these things. You didn't have all these sites, Apple. You didn't have all these pushing you now. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
people said it. But that was a friend of mine. He wanted me to do a song. Joaquin. He wrote that for his wife. It was
All
for
right.
their anniversary. And he called me, brother Sam. I said, "What's up, Joaquin?" He said, "Man, I got this song I want to dedicate to my wife for our anniversary." So after all these years and 30 years or so, and he said, "But I only hear your voice singing it." You know what I mean? Man, I always tell you about your voice. And I was like, "Man, what do you want me to do?" He said, "I want you to sing it, man." I said, "All right, just tell me when and where you want me to come up." And I said, "Can I make any kind of changes or anything?" He said, "You see, whatever you want to do, man." So we went over it and stuff like that, and that's what Heaven Sent. That's why you hear Heaven Sent. That was
Right.
for his. That was for his wife's anniversary. He wrote it, and we just kind of went over the arrangement and everything like that. But yeah, he wrote that, and he wanted me to sing it because he said he didn't want nobody. He heard my voice singing it, and that was really personally for his wife. It really wasn't like, oh, let's put it out, and make. I mean, it was really for his wife. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, big shouts to them, man. Like I know she plays a heck of that record to this day.
Yeah,
Say
but he
whatever.
said she still plays. He said, especially on anniversaries. He said that's because she know that was for her. That's dope.
Then a year later, you put out another song called Human. So what direction you want to go with this? With that single at that time.
Human was the one I worked with my boy Ugly Fingers One, Ugly Fingers Blair. I started writing that because all this human trafficking and stuff,
Yeah.
and just injustice, man. Just when you sit back and you see the wars that's going on, like in what's happening in Ukraine right now. Back then, that was in Syria. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? When Russia
Yeah.
was doing all that, and I watch world news. I don't just watch local news. And again, the spirit came over and said, "Man, somebody's got to." I call it my Marvin moment. That what's going on moment. That's what
Yeah.
That's what human is for me. You know what I mean? It's like I said, man, somebody got to sing about this stuff. Nobody's, talking about it like that. So I told Boogie, I said, man, look, I want to do this, this, and this. And I went in and started singing it and stuff. I said, but I need the music to be, you know, like the Congo. You know what I mean? I needed that. That's why you hear that, doom, before it gets to the hook, it really has that, it got that Congo kind of music, the Congo drums and stuff. And it just, it just resonated. It was just like, this is, it's almost like that. Oh, mercy, mercy me. It's kind of like that. And oh, what's going on? But it's I'm only human. Won't you show me some love? It's that plea, you know what I mean? And like I said, what I'm looking at right now, what's going on, it fits. You know what I mean? It's we got war in Ukraine now instead of Syria. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We got the Gaza Strip. You know what I mean? With the Palestinians and Israel. You know what I mean? It's still here. It hasn't gone anywhere.
Mhm.
I'm gonna take that thing. I'm actually gonna strip the music mix down and do another edit of it, another mix and edit of it, man, and just put it out there because it's just somebody heard it one time. Some ladies from it started for human trafficking, but it turned into just human nature. You know what I mean? Humanity.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, because that song definitely did get re-released though, because especially some of the stuff going on now, man. Stuff like that, man, like downtown LA, then got stuff going on around the world, man. And I'm like, this is a wake up call.
Yeah.
And and then I'm looking at other singers. I'm like, man, you guys got a voice, you got to follow it. I mean, it's one thing, talking about relationships and love and all that, but there
Yeah.
come a time you at least got to put all it to the side and say, hey, you know what? Let me put something out there. I don't know, that's a fear or just laziness.
I don't know, but that's what I'm getting ready to do because I got another song called "What About Love," and it's got a Caribbean Jamaican music feel to it, and it draws you in, but the message is real. So, yeah, that's another one. It's called "What About Love," so be looking for that too. Yeah, it's people hear "What About Love," not the relationship. This is you hear it's talking about politicians. It's talking about people. It's talking about the spirit of murder, hate, greed. It's talking about the whole thing, but it's got the Bob Marley reggae
Ah,
Caribbean
man.
feel to it. It's got that thing. So you drawn into it. You know what I mean? You think, oh man, kind of like how we did with Lean on Me. How the music,
Yeah.
it drew you in, and the message wasn't so sad no more. It's a real message, but people tend
Ah,
to
man.
people tend to receive it when it's not just dreary. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, yeah, and it's called "What About Love." I'll get that to you as well, so you'll get a chance to check that out.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear that, man, and stuff. Just recently you put out a song not too long ago, it was called Here I Am.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, that's a great joint right there, man.
yeah. Oh, you checked it out, huh?
Yeah, I checked it
Yeah.
out. Yeah, matter of fact, I checked it out. It was last week I got the opportunity. I said, let me go check this out because
Uh-huh.
when she was telling me, big shout out to Miss V, she was telling me about you. I said, let me go ahead and check this out because I was on
Uh-huh.
Spotify and I played
Uh-huh.
it.
Uh-huh.
I said, man, I would think about the video, think about, man, like we put out a remix, this and that. I would think all these thoughts in my head and stuff, but I was like, man, I think too far ahead when I be hearing
uh-huh.
stuff that jams and
Uh-huh.
stuff.
Yeah, no,
You know?
you're like me. When I hear songs and I can start visualizing all that different stuff, that's a good
Yeah.
sign for me. That means I get it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, yeah. When I start thinking the things I can do with stuff, that's a good thing. If I'm listening to stuff, oh, that was cool, and never think about it again, that's not so great. But if I hear stuff like you, I'm like, man, the video. What? But believe me, I think about it all the time. I want a video like this one. You know what I mean? I'm gonna do this like that.
Yeah.
And I got some pretty good ideas. But that song is it's a beautiful song. I did that. I co-wrote that and co-produced that with Mikhail London, um, Keith Martin, who's unfortunately no longer with us. He passed
Yeah.
away.
R.I.P.
Um, yeah, but Yeah, man, it was a beautiful thing to do. That's why I said I'm learning to master the art of telling a story. That's
Absolutely.
not tricks, not all the fanciness and everything. I said, all that's great for some artists. I get that if that's their thing. But when I listen to the artists that I idolize in this industry, um, which I told you, Sam Cooke first, um, David Ruffin, um, Marvin Gaye, uh, Teddy Pendergrass. You know what I mean? When I think of those guys, Wilson Pickett, everybody has their thing, but I listen to the guys of that era, man. They told a story. They painted a picture. When you listen to them sing, like you just said, man, when I heard it, that's how I can, with each one of their songs.
Yeah.
Motown didn't have no video, no music videos, but they painted that picture for you. The way they sang them songs, you saw
Yeah.
in living color what they were singing about. You know what I mean? So I spend my time just trying to, when I tell a story, when I write it out and everything, then I go, okay, that part's done. Now, how do I best tell this story where it's believable? Just people think just because you wrote something means that, oh yeah, you can tell it. I said that's not always the case. I said sometimes you can take somebody else wrote and you can interpret it better than your own
Yeah.
because your own sometimes you second and third guess yourself. Like, oh no. I don't know about like that. Maybe I should do it like this. And I tell you what's a blessing and a curse at the same time is when you can sing so many different genres of music, it's
Mhm.
hard to pick which way you want to do something. Because I
Yeah.
might
Facts.
might write something and go, I'm gonna do it like this. And then you might go, yeah, but I can also do it like this. Or I can do it like that. But
Facts.
you
Yeah.
only knew how to do it one way. That's the way you do it. You're gonna master that sucker. So I said it's sometimes it's a blessing and a curse. But
Yeah, definitely is. Yeah, and people don't realize, back in those days, it was like making albums like write a song for a movie or a TV show and stuff, so every song was different. Back then, you could tell an artist sound when you first hear it,
yeah,
remixes, videos, and even original singles and stuff, and now these days, handful of artists is not all, they all sounded the same.
yeah,
It's like it's like they look at women, they go for the looks, but they're not
yeah,
focused on the art.
yeah.
And that's sad how that plays into that stuff.
It's funny that you said that because one of the things I was having trouble with trying to figure out, for my, because now you release singles each at a time. You don't have to just do one album. You can just do single, 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 single. You know what I mean? And I thought about it. I said, man, you got to take all them different pictures for each single. I said, so I thought about it. I said, you know what? I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna use artwork, man, because I want them to listen to the message. I don't want them to look and go, oh, that must be R&B, or that must be soul music, or that must be gospel. Because the minute they see the color of your skin, they think they know what the song is about, right? So
Yeah.
I said, you know what? I think I'll go back and you just gonna see my name with some artwork. And for the people who first time listeners and everything, they ain't gonna know. They're gonna say, Samuelle, what's this? But guess what? Now they gotta listen. They're gonna have to
Right.
listen. They can't just look and go and try and give me, judge a book by the cover. They got to listen to what I'm talking about now, and then it won't make a big difference once they're already drawn in. They don't care if you're black, white, green, blue, or whatever. You know what I mean? They won't put you in a box. They just listen to your message.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen to your story.
And that's like a tone. How they say people are tone deaf. People are just deaf by viewing things,
Yeah,
and they swerve it down that this is who you are. They
yeah.
don't even know you.
Don't even know you. So yeah. So I said I'm gonna take that approach, and I'm gonna focus, like I said, more on having quality music, quality songs, quality lyrics, the message, and just focus on delivering it the way people want to, what people can receive it,
Yeah, absolutely. And stuff.
whether it's happy, sad, whatever. Just I want to sing it to the point where the masses can receive it best they can. I'm not gonna base it on style, fashion. It was a time all that was great, but it's just now people are so lost up, man. We're so caught up now with all this Instagram and stuff. I get it. Some people use it for monetary. I get it. All that's fine, but I'm going. We are missing the message now.
Yeah,
We are.
it's sad though. You see, certain black males. It's like they try their best, try to do anything just for some likes. You see black women, do the same thing. I'm like, it's like that whole app is turned to a porn site. That's
Yeah.
sad. It's like that.
That's what.
And I'm like, come on now, here it is, you 40 something years old, compete with a 26 years old. Come on, man.
Yeah, yeah,
That's stupid. You know,
exactly. Yeah,
like you a parent. Your own
yeah,
kids laughing at
yeah. Now
you.
that's why I said I'm gonna stay away from that, man. I'm gonna practice on delivering the message to where people don't care if I'm 80 in a wheelchair, they coming to see me. You know what I mean?
That's
They
all
gonna
that
say, "Who's
matters.
that? That's Samuelle. Oh, he sing that song I like. Which one? That one."
Yeah.
They ain't gonna know what I look like. You know what I mean? For the people, the newcomers, they ain't gonna know what I look like. They gonna just say, "Hey, I don't know if he's young or old. I don't know. I'm just going to see him because he sing the song that I like, or I'm gonna
Yeah,
get
yeah,
the song, I'm gonna stream his song. I'm gonna download his song, or whatever because I like what he's singing about, and I like the way he's doing it. I'm gonna focus on that.
absolutely. For you being this business, for so many years, how do you maintain, with your faith and staying focused, because it's one thing, you got great support system with your family
Mhm.
and your friends who is honest with you, like, if you slip it up and stuff, how you maintain, your sanity as an individual.
I'm blessed to have the foundation that I had. Two coming from two loving parents, believers in Christ. Um, not not weird believers, but real believers. You know what I mean? Um, who knew we're not perfect. You know what I mean? They didn't try and make you perfect. They knew that there was only one perfect being that ever walked this planet, and it wasn't us. Okay, so
Yeah.
but they introduced us to the faith of Christ long time ago. And when you have a praying father, this big 6'2" guy, when you saw that big man praying daily, every night, every day, went to work every day. Also was the president of a motorcycle club for 25 years. So I grew
Wow.
up. I grew up. He's singing gospel music in the living room. Um, but after, as soon as rehearsal was over, it's 30 or 40 Harley Davidsons in front of our house every Friday night. And he's the president of the club. And then him and mom and them, they all finna go hang out. You know what I mean? And come back. And Sunday morning we go to church, and right after church we go to the Fremont drag strips and watch cars and motorcycles race.
Oh wow.
And he took
Man, it
all
sounded
of
like you
it.
had a cool childhood growing up.
I had a great childhood. Rich, we weren't rich, but we were nowhere near poor. But we weren't rich, but we were rich with family and the love and attention. And
Yeah.
because of that foundation is how I'm able to, because they introduced us to Christ. And when you get introduced to Christ the right way, there's lines you just don't cross. There's certain things you just don't do, and if you do them, you don't feel good about them. You don't do them again. You know what I mean? It's like, and without that belief, without that faith, and that foundation being put in you, man, and having the right kind of heart, you should never want to be in entertainment. It's
Yeah,
almost
absolutely.
like you're gonna try out for a football team and they never trained in the gym, never worked out a day in your life. People don't think about it, but going into the entertainment business that's full of so much greed and devils, if you're not spiritually prepared, don't do it. Don't
Yeah.
do it. Don't do it at all because you gotta have a thing about you gotta have a relationship, not just a belief. You gotta have a relationship with the creator because you're gonna need every bit of that guidance on what steps to take and what alleys not to go down, when doors close is not a bad thing. Some doors need to be closed because he knew that if you go through that one, it's all over. I need you to go through this one. You know what I mean? But that one promises. Pay attention when I'm talking. You know what I mean? So you need every bit of that. And if you don't have any kind of strength and faith in the relationship, I can honestly say you ain't gonna make it. When I say you're gonna make it, you might make money. But like they said, why gaineth the whole world just to lose your soul? Because how many times have you seen people right at their peak,
Yeah.
just start making the most money ever, got the most movie deals up. Next thing you know, they find them dead in a hotel room with a needle in their arm, or they didn't OD on something.
Yeah.
You know what I
Sad.
mean? Because they didn't have the protection. They didn't have that protection. They didn't have that spiritual protection, that soul protection that you need from everybody pulling you this way and that way. And some people just come in so honestly, just gifted and talented, but they don't have that. And this is not the place to be. Again, I said that's like you saying I want to be a wide receiver and a running back on an NFL team, and you get out there and you catch the ball, but you ain't never been hit before.
Yeah, it's a whole different lane, man.
What
You
you
got
think
to stay ready.
what you think gonna happen the minute you catch that ball, and that boy 280 or 300 coming running a 4.5, and he hits you and you don't see him coming. Only thing you're gonna be is in the emergency room.
Yeah, gonna have cracked ribs, man.
Man,
Sore ankles
vertebrae,
and everything.
vertebrae, disc, I mean, just everything, rupture. That's why I said. But this does it. See, people think because it's not physical, it's spiritual, and it just eats people up. You've seen it. It eats people up.
Yeah.
You've seen people. You've seen people way older than us, man. They in this business still, and if you talk to them, if you see them in person, they still acting like they 20 years old. They acting like they back in the days. And you
Oh man.
and you look at them
You
like,
ain't
oh,
lying, man. I know there's some people I went to school with, man, like to go on 85 years old, man. I'm
yeah.
like, damn,
And
what the
you
hell
ask them,
happened you after high school?
and
Man.
they asking you, and if you ask them what they tell you, man, I'm still doing my thing. And you looking at them like you need to stop doing your thing,
Yeah.
do something
Yeah,
else.
you do your thing, all right.
Yeah, but yeah, man, but that's how I do, man. That's how I do it. I stay grounded because, like I say, prayer. Prayer.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely and
it.
stuff.
My relationship, man. That's how I do, man. Staying prayed up, and being honest with myself, and you can't. God know everything anyway, so ain't that even
Yeah.
just being honest with myself. Being honest with myself, man, with my family and stuff like that. Just loving on folks, man, and you know, it ain't always easy, but like I said, what is, and good things don't come to easy all the time, but I don't find the struggle anymore because I can see it because my eyes have been open to see. And with all this stuff going down now with the P. Diddy and all that stuff, I thank God every day because I remember it was a time I said, boy, it sure would be nice to get signed with one of them labels. Back then they was giving out,
Yeah.
because they was giving out millions, remember? And
Wow.
because I was trying to figure out how's these dudes come out. I ain't never heard them before. They driving a $2 million car and they got a $6 million mansion
Yeah.
and they ain't never sold a song outside of Florida. You know what I mean? But now I see there was a click. You know what I mean? And I
Yep.
said, Lord, you know what I mean? All the time I swear, man, I said thank you because I didn't. And it ain't just the ones that we seeing. There's some people in that machine behind the scenes that names have not come out that run that whole entertainment business. That's why I said it's a good time to be able to do this without needing a label. Without,
Yeah.
yeah, because social media has changed the game. I mean, I'm sure they in there somewhere, but you got to realistically figure out why you want to do this. What's your reasoning? What's your why? As they used to say when I was in sales, what's your why? You know what I mean? You got to
Yep.
have a why. I remember when I first was in sales, they used to say, "Go buy something." I was like, "Well, buy something because that'll make you hustle, your sales to pay it off, right?" And I
Yep.
saw what their logic was, and I said, "You got to figure out why you do stuff. What makes you want to?" Because I know plenty of people. I know some of the best singers and music and engineers and right. They don't care about being in the business. They just do it for fun or whatever. They show up and jam or whatever because they know this is the thing that the element that comes along with this is not something they can deal with or willing to deal with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
being in it so long, I remember them weird parties. Not like quite like they say it now, but I just remember I stopped wanting to meet people because it messes me up. And when I see them in movies, after I met them, I'll be like, you know what I mean? They'd be so different in person. They'd be so
Man.
weird. I'd be like, wow. So after a while, I was like, I don't want to meet nobody else. I just rather think of them. I just rather think of them like when I see them. Like, oh yeah, when they're doing their craft. I
Yeah,
didn't
they
want,
day and night, man.
yeah, I didn't want to meet them behind the scenes no more, man, because they were just so something spiritually wrong with them. So I just said, just left it at that. But I said, if people want to ask themselves and truly honest with themselves, why they want to be in this music business, why do they want to sing? If they just love to just the art and you know and just be creative and maybe somebody out there, maybe I can, maybe what I sing about can help somebody through something. If they feel that way about it, then it's fine. But if they
Yeah,
talk, man, I want to be out there. Okay, I want to be on big stages, be on big shows and all that. I can honestly tell you, they're gonna lose themselves in this.
yeah, absolutely, man. Shoot,
They gonna,
thank you once again, man, for taking the time to come on here.
thank you.
I appreciate you, brother. Saying talk about your history of the business, your upbringing, and where you are in your life now. Before we get off, what you got going next? Okay, you got the new project coming out. You got some shows coming up.
Well, yeah, got the new project coming out. I got two projects. I got my solo project, which is still trying to figure out a name. I might go by Samuelle, but AKA the Program Man, because that's what I'm known as, the Program. Program.
Oh,
My
yeah.
father gave me that name a long time ago. Program. So it's the program, man. Um, I got those. I got that project coming out, and then I got an amazing project coming out with both with some of the same producers. Foster, McElroy, Tommy McElroy is doing some stuff with me. DOA Allen, um, DJ Styles, Ken
All
doing
right.
stuff. Yeah, DJ K Styles. But Valerie and myself, we going out. It's called Sam and Val. Voices.
Okay.
Voices is on Facebook as Samuelle and Val, the Voices of Club Nouveau. That's how you see it on Instagram and Facebook. But we do have some shows coming up. We got in July. We're doing a nice show at in Porterville in California with Morris Day and the Time and a few other some other big hitters. And then in August we're doing another show at Thunder Valley in Lincoln, right by Sacramento, California. Jeffrey Osborne is heading that up, man. It's gonna be nice, man. We're doing some real nice stuff. Some real
Yeah.
nice. We're gonna be with World One Presents. You know, for booking and stuff like that. That's what people will be going through. World One Presents. And I'll keep you posted on everything, man. I'll make sure you get all the latest music from my stuff and from the Voices project with Val and myself as well. You'll have everything ahead of everybody else because I want to get you. Yeah, I just love to hear your honest feedback, man. I like your vibration.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, it's a blessing. You know, whenever I have artists like yourself, you know, they'll email me, or they'll play a song on the phone and stuff. I hear it. Man, that's hot right there. You know what I'm saying? I always give my feedback on it. You know what I'm saying? If I feel songs that hit the best and stuff like that, you know,
okay.
when I hear things. Man, just want to give a big shout out to Miss V for making this happen. You know what I'm saying? She always steady on the go. You know, she'll call me, say, hey, Sean, guess what? Guess what's going on? So, you know, and it's cool to work with her because especially somebody like her got so much great energy, you know.
Yeah. When I
Especially her being a PR, you know, you don't see that all the time like that.
Yeah, when I talked to her earlier, she seemed very positive. I liked her vibration too. Yeah, she had great energy. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Big shouts to Shanette. I really appreciate you. You know, so I always support the brothers since day one and stuff like that. But with that being said, yeah, I mean, you definitely got to come back on here, you know, talk about the new project and talk about song by song and go from there. So
definitely, man, I'll get it to you, man, and we can do this again real soon. Like, so I'm just curious. I would love to get your feedback and your listeners' feedback on on what some of my new stuff.
yeah, absolutely. So with it being said, we out of here.
Peace.
Peace.